All right, everybody, here we are. We are back with Fins Nation. If you thought that the Miami Dolphins playoff season ending was going to be the end of Fins Nation, you were sadly mistaken. I am your host, Louis Song. I am joined by a very good friend of mine, somebody who has popped on the pulse of Fins Nation every once in a blue moon, and I'm going to try to get him back on here every once in a while. Good friend Chad Ronnebaum, back from the old days of the Fin Maniacs podcast. Sir, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How about you, Louis?
Oh, well, about as good as I can be, knowing that the Dolphins are not going to be playing any more football this
That's a
season.
rough one.
I think the only consolation that I can have right now, and I feel bad because I know that many people that I know are fans of theirs, but my only consolation is that the Dallas Cowboys got their butts handed to them by Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. So
I don't know. I don't share your love of that. I mean, it might make the Dolphins season look a little less worse, but if I was a betting man, I would say by the end of the next week, Bill Belichick will be the coach of the Cowboys. That's
okay, look. I mean, if that's what ends up happening, I can't wait to see Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick going at it over who gets to be in charge. Okay, because I don't think that's going to go very well. That's just my thoughts on that. So
yeah, true.
and everybody's saying Jim Harbaugh. Like, please, enough, stop.
I do think Jim Harbaugh is going to Los Angeles. I think he's going to the Chargers.
Well, I guess we'll finally see.
That's what I think.
I guess we'll finally see if Justin Herbert's any good then, right? Or if Jim Harbaugh still has what it takes to be an NFL coach. Because all this talk, people thought up and down, right? I remember this. John Gruden was supposed to be like, oh my God, they got John Gruden back to coach again. And that absolutely blew up in their faces. I still remember the same people who were begging.
Depends if you're a conspiracy theorist or not on the John Gruden thing. But
I was, and I still remember people screaming at the top of their lungs, let's go get Bill Cowher to come out of retirement. I'm like, oh my God, please, enough. It's like,
I've been the Jim Harbaugh guy for years. I wanted him in Miami. I think he's a very good coach, but I don't think that's happening. So
yeah, I'm not going to lose.
Sounds like Ross is. I actually saw an article yesterday. He's trying really hard to keep him in Michigan. So I don't know if you did see, but Harbaugh is meeting with the Chargers. So we'll see. I don't know if that's a stunt by Harbaugh to try to get more money out of Michigan for his contract, or if he's serious about returning. But I think with all the cheating allegations and everything that happened in Michigan this year, and he won the title, I could see him returning to the NFL now to try to win a Super Bowl. But we'll see.
I'm not convinced. I'm going to have to see it to believe it, because all this stuff about Jim Harbaugh and Bill Belichick, it's just a revolving door. It's always the same guys. And if you don't think this person was good here, what makes you think you're going to be good there and all that other stuff?
Well, Belichick's, I just don't want him to break Shula's record. That's all I'm interested in, because he's probably 2 seasons from breaking it. But
I hope he retires. For real.
I do too.
Just go away.
There's only jobs that make sense for Bill Belichick are ones where he has a pretty good team in place, try to win a Super Bowl right away. That's why I would say keep an eye on Dallas. They have a really good defensive talent that he could work with, and I could see it, because you throw other teams out there, if they're a team has to, get some good draft picks and has to do some rebuilding, I don't think he's the guy. Plus, he's been honestly terrible as a personnel man. So,
yep,
I don't know.
But what you're saying is, in order for it to count, he's going to have to inherit somebody else's hard work.
Well, to me, it's the Cowboys, because I would think Jerry Jones is going to look at his roster and say, this is a loaded roster. If I bring in Belichick, we can win a Super Bowl immediately. That would be the thinking on that. But, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to be talking about today is kind of a little bit of a mental exercise, as it were, because Chad proposed an interesting idea, and I'll go ahead and I'll let him explain it in just a moment. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, one of each league. It's up to you ultimately to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. That's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play play with and get started winning today. And also, this show is affiliate sponsored by My Nintendo Store. Use the links in the description below when you make your order for either Super Mario Bros. RPG or Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Both are out and both are having amazing reviews from both gamers and critics alike. If you use the links in the description below to make your order, you will be receiving bonus items upon making that purchase. My Nintendo Store, your quickest and easiest way to the world of Nintendo. All right, Chad. So I needed to bring you on because when you proposed it in the group chat that we're in, I thought to myself, this is I still remember the old saying, and I'm not going to say it yet because I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of explain what your idea is, and then I'll offer my rebuttal, because as much as I kind of understand what it is on paper, there's the other part of me is just thinking, I don't think this can possibly work, but go ahead and kind of explain your idea.
Well, I think first off, the where this is coming from is in today's NFL, to be a team that has sustained success, wins more than they loses. You have to have good quarterback play, and that you can just look through the years in the playoffs. When the Colts were good, they have Peyton Manning. The Patriots are good, they have Tom Brady. The Chiefs are good right now with Patrick Mahomes, and so on. And so a lot of the NFL is all about trying to get your franchise quarterback, and then when you have a franchise quarterback, trying to win titles. Now, I think the other prevailing stat that really hit me this year was 2/3 of the team. You got to keep that in mind. It was 2/3 of the team in the NFL lost their starting quarterback this year to injury. And so it's just such a difficult position to keep talent to have like the top 10, 15 quarterbacks. And I think what I see happen time and time again is these teams have quarterbacks and they just don't really have the talent behind the quarterbacks, mainly because of the cap, just because there's so few of them. And so I look at, what Green Bay's doing right now with Jordan Love, and this is their third quarterback who's looking like he might be a franchise quarterback for them right now after Brett Favre, after Aaron Rodgers. And they bring these guys on, and they bring a guy on that they're developing for 3 or 4 years before they have him ready to be their next starter. And, I was thinking about the Dolphins this year, and I think it was a good thing that, the way Tua was used was very protective. Like very rarely was Tua running. Very rarely was he even holding the ball that long in the pocket. And a lot of it was designed to make sure that Tua stayed healthy. And in doing so, you limit your offense a little bit. And then I think Tua has almost been trained to not run at times. I mean, there was a play last night in the Kansas City game where I don't know if you remember this. I think we had like a 2 yards to go, and he escaped the pocket a little bit, and then he tried to do a really quick pass to Tyreek Hill that was dropped. I believe it was a 4th down, and he could have just ran for it. And I think he tends to not want to run because he's been so trained, don't get hurt, after the last season. And so my thought putting that all together was, what is the real point of paying Mike White $5 million a year? I mean, and you could do a poll out there. You could ask anybody, but I'll ask you before I continue this. Do you think had Tua went down week 2 or 3 with an ACL for the year, do you think Miami would have been a legitimate contender with Mike White at quarterback all year?
No, of course not. Mike White is somebody who can win you 2 or 3 games in a short term, but you need your starting quarterback. But I would say that also any team that runs into that situation, if you lose your starting quarterback, you're going to have severe problems. I mean, all the teams that I'm thinking of right now that are in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson, for what I remember, did not miss any games. Jordan Love didn't miss any games. Prescott didn't miss any games. Just going down the list here, did Patrick Mahomes miss any games? Not that I can remember. Josh Allen hasn't missed any games. So everybody who was in the playoffs, they pretty much had their starting quarterback. I think the Steelers might be the only ones who have been flip-flop on quarterbacks, but that's honestly, and the Browns, but the Browns are already out. Joe Flacco, his storybook ended really quickly. Mm-hmm. So, and with the Steelers, it wasn't even injuries per se. Like, yeah, Kenny Pickett got hurt, but after a while, it just turned into, we're just going to keep rotating quarterbacks until we find one that works. So it was Pickett, it was Rudolph, it was Trubisky, it was all these guys, and they all sucked. So they just kind of like, okay, let's just see which one sucks the least, and we'll go with that one. And that's what they went with. So that was more choice than just necessity. So in that And I'm pretty sure that once Pittsburgh goes and faces the Bills, they're out of there too. So
Right.
that's not even worth a discussion.
And I don't disagree with you that that's the common trend across the NFL. The simple point I'm making is Mike White has very little value in general to me. I mean, so if Tua gets hurt, this is just my perspective. I thought there was very little difference between the team's chances to win with Skylar Thompson versus Mike White. I thought they were very close. But the other thing is Mike White does nothing. And this isn't a rip on Mike White. Mike White doesn't back up any positions. He doesn't get on the field whatsoever. Like he doesn't even hold, field goals. That's the punter's job. And so with Mike White having absolutely no value unless Tua gets hurt, and if Tua gets hurt, the prevailing perspective is the chances that we could actually compete for a title are very minimal with Mike White. And so I look at that. I'm like, the whole point then of somebody like Mike White is hopefully we can band it together a couple games or 3 games. If Tua has a minor injury, then he can come back and he can get us a win or two, just because he knows the offense and he's not terrible. That's the idea behind it. So where I was wanting to come from a different perspective is because it's the most viable position in the NFL, and because the Miami Dolphins, of their number one weakness offensively, I thought it was their short yardage offense. I thought when we would get distances of like 2 to 3 yards to go to the first down, we ran plays frequently that had the same amount of success rate as if it were 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. That's what we're doing on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. And I think, and part of that was because Mike McDaniel was in the side that I'm not going to quarterback sneak Tua because I don't want to risk getting him hurt. Whereas you see teams like the Philadelphia Eagles who perfected the tush push, and their first downs were nearly automatic. When they get like inside 2 yards, they would just run that play with Jalen Hurts. And so my thought was, what if you add a dual quarterback system? And I know very few teams have tried this, and I know a lot of quarterbacks are going to like get their prima donna, like I would never come off the field on certain downs. I should always be on the field. But I threw Justin Fields out there just because there's a possibility he would be available from the Bears. But it doesn't have to be Justin Fields. My proposal would be the idea of paying somebody like Mike White $5 million, keep the $5 million and put it towards trying to add it towards Christian Wilkins' contract or something like that. Give that money to somebody who's going to directly impact the team who's on the field a lot. And don't pay that money to a backup quarterback, whether it's a veteran, just because you think that guy gives you a better chance to make it through a few games. I'd say go get the most athletic quarterback you can get that just has a decent competency. I'm not looking for a franchise quarterback. I'm not looking for the next Lamar Jackson. I'm not looking for the next Josh Allen. I just want to bring in a guy who has the athletic ability of like a Jalen Hurts, for example. But I'm not expecting him to be Jalen Hurts. And my thought process was, one is you give this guy a very limited playbook. He doesn't have to learn the whole playbook immediately. And you only play this quarterback situationally. And I think that would really help Miami out because you look at what their biggest weakness is short yardage offense. So could you imagine if we traded and acquired Justin Fields? I'm just throwing this out there out of fantasy land. Let's say we went and traded our first round pick to the Chicago Bears and we got Justin Fields. If you step back and think about this as a defensive coordinator, anytime it's 2 yards to go or 3 yards to go or less. So if it's 2nd and 2, let's say, for example, I'm pulling Tua off the field and I'm putting in Justin Fields. Because now as a defensive coordinator, you've got to contain a quarterback that is such a good running threat that it's so difficult, I think, to stop teams from getting 2 yards. Because not only can you do the tush push type stuff, you can just do old school football stuff. You can run the option. You can just do the quarterback immediately takes off and runs. And then you still run the rest of your offense. You have your guys that the Dolphins have, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. To me, that creates an offense that's extremely difficult to contain from getting 1 to 2 yards at a time. So, and then if this down is over 3 yards, any down. So if it's 2nd and 4, or if it's 3rd and 6, for example, then Tua's in there and you're just running your offense that he knows he's your passing quarterback. But anytime you get within 3 yards of the goal line, anytime you're within 2 yards of a first down, you're bringing in that exceptional athlete as a quarterback. And my thought process of that was, one is he's playing, he's coming on the field, he's contributing to the football team versus a guy that just stands on the sideline that does no contribution. And also, then let's say you bring in a rookie that's very athletic, he's learning the playbook, and you can start to develop him to learn more and more of the playbooks over the next couple of years. Now, if Tua gets hurt, you've got a quarterback who's been playing, and he knows his section of the playbook really well. So let's say it's the second quarter and it's a playoff game and Tua goes down. You've got a quarterback who's already ready to execute, maybe 30% of your playbook at a high level, and he's very talented. To me, that's better than bringing in Mike White, who's handed the ball off in garbage time like 4 or 5 times the whole year. And so I was just throwing that out there as an idea. I know Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel would probably laugh at me on this internet hack, but to me, it makes way more sense rather than to just bring these quarterbacks in who have really no potential to start in the NFL, and bring guys in that you can develop and maybe make them a different kind of player. Bring in a guy that can be a Cordell Stewart type of player. Whether or not he just runs a wildcat, he just runs your short yardage offense. To me, it makes way more sense than having Mike White, because you think about where the Dolphins would have been had we had more success rate at converting our short yardage offense. That's probably a game where we probably defeat the Titans if we would have had a better short yardage offense. So that's just a nutshell of what my proposal is to put more effort into developing your number 2 quarterback by getting him on the field in some situational football.
Okay, so I hear everything you're saying, and I already told you pre-show, I disagree with the premise on its face. The issue I have at that point, it's multifaceted. Number one, if you're looking for a backup quarterback who can step in just in case if something happens, you might as well just draft somebody in the second round. If you don't get a first-round quarterback, you get a second-round quarterback. I know there are already a bunch of people out there who are saying, oh, yeah, get Michael Penix or however you say his name. I don't want anybody thinking I'm trying to get demonetized here. I don't even know how you say his name. But that other left-handed quarterback coming out of college, like, oh, let's just go get that guy. He'll be better than Tua. That's what already people are saying just in a vacuum. Forget as a backup or a situational guy. So you might as well just draft a rookie anyway and not pay anybody to begin with. That's number one. Number two, if you were to go out there and use your first-round pick on, say, a Justin Fields, if you are willing to invest a first-round draft pick in any kind of quarterback, the expectation is that you are replacing him. You are replacing Tua with Justin Fields. And there are people, legitimately, who are saying, give Mike McDaniel Justin Fields instead, and suddenly our offense is going to look a whole lot better because they believe that Justin Fields has a lot more potential than Tua does because he is a much, much more athletically gifted human being. Like, never mind his ability, like his inaccuracy as a quarterback. Some people will say that that's just a result of the pieces around Justin Fields in Chicago. It is miserable. It is awful. Nobody in Chicago is particularly happy with the direction of the franchise right now, and especially with the fact that they're keeping Matt Eberflus as the head coach over there. So they're looking at that and saying Justin Fields has been done dirty. And maybe there's some merit to that. Maybe. I mean, that there were a lot of people who, to this day, still maintain that Lamar Jackson is not a very good thrower. Even I was on that bandwagon for a little while, saying you make Lamar Jackson beat you with his arm instead of his legs, and that's the key to victory. And as it turns out, Lamar Jackson beat us with his arm anyway, so it doesn't matter. So Justin Fields is in that same boat with a lot of people. So if you end up trading for Justin Fields, all that's going to do is just say, oh, he's here to replace Tua. And everybody will probably agree. And as soon as Tua makes any mistake, and I do mean any mistake, they're going to be screaming to the high heavens for Justin Fields to come in and run roughshod over whatever defense is facing him, because Justin Fields is not a very good thrower as it stands right now. Everything that we've seen indicates that he's not particularly gifted as a pure passing quarterback. But man, he can run for 100 yards on any defense he faces. So, but that's the excitement. That's the electrifying quarterback. That's the new age quarterback. So why would you stick with Tua Tagovailoa, who so many people feel like he's physically limited? He doesn't have a strong arm. He's not super fast. He has injury concerns in spite of the fact he played the entire season. When you can get somebody like Justin Fields, who is athletically gifted, who does have a strong arm, and the only thing that's wrong with him is that he has an errant pass every few passes or so. which is not good if you're a quarterback and your job is to throw the ball. But Justin Fields would immediately offer something that Tua does not. And people will forget about everything else the moment that Justin Fields runs for 20 yards going down the field.
Right. And I understand what you're saying. You're concerned about the media narrative and it would put unnecessary pressure on Tua.
But it's not just the media narrative, bro. It's the fans themselves. Already,
Sure.
people are sour on Tua. They're like so many people that I've been talking to. They're done with Tua. They're like, nope, I'm not having it. We see all these physical
Right.
freaks doing incredible stuff. Jordan Love, I said this on Twitter. It's like Jordan Love was awful until he wasn't, and now all of a sudden he looks like Patrick Mahomes light, and he's doing incredible stuff that nobody saw him doing during the first half of the season. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson. Patrick Mahomes still Patrick Mahomes. All of these guys, supreme physical, like came down from planet Vulcan or whatever and just out physicaled everybody in various ways. Lamar Jackson's faster than pretty much half the running backs in the NFL. Justin Fields the same way, by the way. You have Patrick Mahomes, who can probably stand on his head and still manage to throw a touchdown 60 yards down the field. Josh Allen bulldozes everybody who runs into him. And as for Jordan Love, he's doing the Mahomes stuff now. So all these guys are physical freaks of nature that Tua would never even dream of being able to pull off. So if you go get Justin Fields, they're going to try to see McDaniel say, turn Justin Fields into Lamar Jackson. And that's going to be that's what's going to be the discussion.
That's what people are going
to
say, though, right? So first of all, I would communicate it up front what you're doing. What I'm proposing, not just as a two quarterback, I'm proposing situational quarterbacks. You do it with other positions. If you are at 3rd and long versus 3rd and 1, you maybe use a different running back or you use different personnel in the game. And so everything you said about Justin Fields was spot on. He hasn't been a great quarterback in the pocket. He hasn't been overly accurate. He's made bad decisions. I'm not putting Justin Fields in a pocket in 3rd and 6 at all. I'm saying Justin Fields is only on the field when there's 2 yards to gain for a first down or a touchdown, or 3 maybe. And the reason is because you're taking a guy that is Justin Fields. He's just an example right now. I'm not focusing on him, Lewis, but as of today, he is the most athletically gifted quarterback in the NFL. I think he's quite a bit more athletic even than Lamar Jackson. Justin Fields is, but he's not as good as quarterback as Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have as good a coach and doesn't have as good a team. But I'm just saying, like, the difficulty scheme wise and just being a realist, it's so difficult to stop a guy like Justin Fields or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson when there's only 2 yards to go. Because even if you have a spy on them, their athletic ability to just gain 2 yards running the ball has to be accounted for, right? It has to be. And so I'm looking at nothing of what are the percent likelihood of success. And so I am saying if you put Justin Fields in on downs that are only 2 yards to go, the success rate would be through the roof because it's nearly impossible to stop him already from getting 1 yard just on a sneak if you're executing that properly. Very difficult to even stop him from getting 2 yards when you throw in the rest of it because he's not going to have the accuracy like on the passes that Tua has. Like if you're sending, but you still, if you send Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle down the field with Justin Fields in the game, you have to keep your safeties back. You still have to. You still have to play honest defense. He's good enough to make you play honest defense on 2nd and 2. You can't bring your safeties up in the box to try to defend him running the football. You have to respect the other players still. Whereas when you get into the 3rd and 6, Justin Fields starts to struggle a little because it's a lot different with him taking off and running and having to get a first down when it's 6 or 7 yards away because now you've got maybe a safety or a linebacker that have been watching him and he's got to outrun them to the first down marker. That's not so easy to do. But with Tua, I'm swinging back to the injuries in the NFL. Like there were opportunities this year where you could run with Tua, but McDaniel's choosing not to because he's making sure Tua is available for the whole season, right? Whereas a lot of teams lost their quarterbacks. And so I'm basically just removing your Tua from when you have short yardage, when it's ideal for a quarterback to maybe take off and run. And I'm substituting in a quarterback that's really good at running with the football. And his strong suit maybe isn't sitting in the pocket and playing when it's down and distance to go. So I'm not saying this is something NFL teams do. I'm just throwing that out there. And again, this stems from when I look around the league and I see all these backups, and I'm using Mike White as an example. I just don't see any value in Mike White unless Mike White can win a championship starting, and he's not going to see the field at all to help your team. I don't see the value in keeping him. You might as well take the bare minimum backup quarterback and not pay a backup anything unless he's capable of winning a championship with your football team. Whereas you bring in, let me not use Justin Fields because that's a bad example, because he's, wherever he goes, somebody's going to be expecting him to be the starter. You're right about that. What if you take a guy like Malik Cunningham that the Patriots have, that's not a starting quarterback in the NFL? And so you're bringing him into Miami, and you're not bringing him here to be a starting quarterback. You're bringing him here to do nothing but run anything that's less than 2 yards to go, because situationally, he's good enough to make the defenses play honest. You can't just let Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle run free down the field. You have to play those guys. And when you play honest defense, it's so difficult to stop a really athletic quarterback from gaining a yard or two. That's all I'm doing. And I think if you convert maybe 2 to 3 more third downs per game because of it, you're going to add 2 to 3 more wins on your season totals. That's my theory.
I just don't know, man. You're not being inaccurate with anything you're saying, but just the premise itself just rubs me the wrong way. Like everybody, let's take a look at the New Orleans Saints. They got Derek Carr over there, and for a while they had even back when Drew Brees was there. They had this whole Taysom Hill thing going. Like, is Taysom Hill like, and let me also preface that Teddy Bridgewater and Jameis Winston in New Orleans. Taysom Hill was always there. And some people were saying, why are we bothering with all these other guys when we have Taysom Hill? He can come in and he can do a whole bunch of stuff. Taysom Hill is probably the only guy that I could see this situational guy working, because Taysom Hill has most of his value as a tight end. And yeah, you could put him in as a backup quarterback in an emergency, and he could probably get you something running the football and throwing the football every once in a while. But that's just it, man. If the whole concept is that you're trying to protect your season from just being derailed by the loss of your starting quarterback, the old saying goes that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you actually have none. And if you don't have enough faith in Tua to either stay healthy or have enough faith in Tua to get the 3rd and 2, then that says that Tua's not the guy. You should never have this urge, this weird feeling in your gut that maybe it's time to replace this other guy with another guy who does this other thing better, because in a weird way, that also makes things more predictable for the other team. Because if you see Justin, let's go back to the Justin Fields discussion. If you bring in Justin Fields,
right,
and the idea is that he's going to get there, the short yardage situation, he's probably going to run the ball. That's what you're predicting the defense is going to think. They're going to basically...
No, you literally are going to run the ball, Lewis, unless the team doesn't play honest.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is that they will stack the box, and basically they're going to look at Justin Fields and say, I dare you. Go ahead. See if you can do it.
Which is exactly what I would do. I would love to have Justin Fields throw 9 routes to Tyreek Hill if you're going to press him in tight man with no safety help. Teams tried it all year, and he burned them over and over and over. I'm just saying, like, I realize that you're probably going to run out of this 80. And that doesn't mean Justin Fields is going to run it 80% of the time. I'm saying it could be going to Raheem Mostert. It could be going to Devon Achane. It could be an end around to Tyreek Hill with Justin Fields booting the other way. What I believe is if you put that type of player in, that your chances of converting the short yardage plays are going to go up higher than what you would have with Tua. And it also protects Tua, because if you want to run let's say a bootleg the opposite, you're going to fake a handoff and roll the quarterback the opposite way with the idea you're going to run for a first down. They actually did that a couple of times in the Kansas City game, and Tua gained like 10 yards. But if you're going to do that, there's a chance Tua is going to take a hit, right? So you're just removing that, because I'm looking at like Tua is too valuable to get knocked out to risk, especially, and again, I'm talking about situational football. What if it's the first quarter in the third game of the year, and the team is whatsoever you can see on film, they're not defending the quarterback running at all, right? And it's 2nd 2, and it's early in the second quarter, third game of the year. Is it worth the risk to have Tua take off and run to get that 3 yards for the first down and then take a shot from a safety?
Yes, it is worth it. For me, Chad, it is, because again, I don't want to play a season scared. Yes, Tua had injury history, but that's why he spent the whole offseason working on trying to make sure that doesn't happen. In Kansas City, we finally saw it. We finally started. He actually ran twice, and the other team had no idea it was coming. Zero, none. They were completely caught off guard that Tua just decided to actually run with it. Quite frankly, in my mind, if you want Tua to take that next step, if you want him to become the elite quarterback that I still believe that he can become, because I still believe that he can do something like a Drew Brees kind of quarterback, just again, I keep saying it, took 6 years and a team change for Drew Brees to become Drew Brees. So
I'm not out on Tua, Louis.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not. But this is my point.
I'm trying to put out an idea that nobody's really doing much of, and just saying, in today's NFL, why not have a specialty quarterback play situationally versus always play the same quarterback every single down on offense?
Because the Saints have already done it, bro. It's Taysom Hill, and it hasn't worked for them. It doesn't.
I mean, I don't think Taysom Hill's that great of a quarterback, though.
No, that's not what he's there for. He's there to, every once in a blue moon, throw the football if the team does not play honest. And then if they do play honest, then okay, we'll go ahead and run the ball with Taysom Hill. You don't know. Maybe he'll throw it. Maybe he'll run it. Maybe he won't.
I can't comment too much because I honestly don't know how much the Saints do it and the success rates of using Taysom Hill. I know they've done it, but I don't know how much they've done it this year or how much they did it in the past.
What I can tell you, bro, is that they didn't make the playoffs, and that's indicator enough for me.
Well, they don't have that great of a team though, either. And so I would look at it as nothing but what is the percentage differences between converting downs. And so if I come in and again, I'm doing fantasy land here, but if I have Justin Fields, I believe that Mike McDaniel, I believe most offensive coordinators, but definitely believe Mike McDaniel, given Justin Fields with 2 yards to go, would be 90%. He would complete 9 out of 10 first downs in that situation to get a first down if it's 3rd and 2 or less with Justin Fields. Because I think it is so difficult on a defense to stop that. And you've watched it, like you watch the teams like Philadelphia this year, you watch Buffalo, you already know when it's 3rd and 1 that it's going to be extremely difficult to stop. Now we did it. We stopped a quarterback sneak on Josh Allen barely, and that was at like a yard away. But I'm just saying, I'm looking at percentages conversions. And so when I put Tua on the field and it's 2 yards or less to go, I believe Justin Fields is going to have a higher success rate at getting a first down than Tua. Because, again, Tua's success rate's the same as if it's 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. Because whether or not Tua is capable, the fact is this year, other than this couple of runs here in the Kansas City game, Tua hardly ran the ball at all. Like, how many attempts do you think he had this year? 10, maybe?
Well,
total?
He needs to do it more. That's going to be the key. I know Tua can run. People telling me Tua's slow. I'm like, bro, Tua's not slow. It's just that you've raised the standard so much.
Okay, but again, if it's week 3 and your backup's Mike White, can you really risk having Tua get knocked out for the year?
People can. If it's week 3, can you risk Patrick Mahomes getting knocked out for the year? If it's week 3, can you risk Lamar Jackson getting knocked out for the year? If it's week 3, can you risk Josh Allen getting knocked out for the year? Any quarterback that runs any quarterback that runs is going to be a risk of injury. We cannot play more scared than the rest of the NFL because you
have to have your starter. Like you just ran through earlier the playoff teams, right? Pretty much all the playoff teams had their starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, and 3 of them are the 3 that are the most expected to potentially win the whole thing are 3 of the runners.
They do run, but maybe they got lucky. I mean, Lamar Jackson's been hurt in prior years, to be honest. He has.
And they got lucky this year, yeah.
And granted, I know Josh Allen runs a lot, but he also weighs 240 pounds, and that's you don't. It's just not possible to get guys like that every year. They're really rare, and so I don't know that you can get quarterbacks that can sustain a lot of hits. I personally don't think Tua could take one hit per game and maybe make the whole year. I just don't know that he could. Running the football. I don't mean getting sacked. I mean going out, running the football, and not getting to slide down and actually getting hit. I don't know that he'd make it. And
Nothing wrong with sliding to me, bro. As long as he gets the first down, he can slide.
Well,
right after
he
gets that
has to
marker.
get down, though. I'm just saying you're taking a risk when you have him leave the pocket and run. Will he get down in time? Will he see everybody? Or will he get blown up sometime and then not, then he's out for the year. And then that's your season gone in one play. And so it's not worth your season to try to convert a 2nd and 2 the third game when it's like the second quarter. It's just not worth it. You're better off to punt and keep Tua for the whole year is the mentality there. Now, I think that's the way they played. Did they play too conservative this year? That's valid. You have a point. And maybe I'm crazy, but I'm stemming this all the way back that I don't see any value in Mike White being your backup anyway. And so maybe the every 2 yards is an exaggeration, but even if he's used him 1 or 2 plays per game, and like you only use him to do the tush push, let's say you have a quarterback that's good enough that they have to at least have somebody cover Tyreek Hill if he splits out, and you bring a guy in to do on a half yard to go, he just slams up the middle and they push him forward, or it's a quarterback sneak. Just 2 plays. To me, that guy's already doing more for the team than Mike White's going to do for you.
We may have to revisit this discussion on Pulse of Fins Nation. Maybe I'll get Ron and I'll get Duke to weigh in too if we can swing it.
Sure.
Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and call it here. Everybody, thank you for listening. We're going to have more content for you because even though the Dolphins season is over, we here at the 5 Reasons Sports Network are not finished, not by a long shot. We still have more to talk about. We're going to talk about, obviously, the offseason. What should the Dolphins do? What should they do in trades, free agency, the draft, all that wonderful stuff that we love to do as we try to reload for what will hopefully be a 2024 season. I personally feel like that this is the most promising the team has looked in the last 20 years. And quite frankly, I don't want to throw it all away. I feel like it's best we try to tweak a few things and let's see if we can run it back again. We'll get into more on that as the weeks progress. But again, Chad, thank you for joining us. I'm going to see if I can get you back on to revisit this discussion and see if maybe we can maybe come to some kind of agreement on some things. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think you're going to win on that one because teams just don't teams like to keep one quarterback on the field, not bring in another one.
Well, I will say this. If Mike McDaniel has shown anything is that he's unconventional, sometimes to a fault. So we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah. All right. So everybody, make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. And of course, use the links in the description of this YouTube video when you make your purchase on My Nintendo Store. So that way you'll be able to get bonus items when you get either the 2 games in those links. So make sure you're getting in on that. If you're looking for a very belated Christmas present for maybe a nephew you might have forgotten exists, I don't know. Just go ahead and get that game for him. All right. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back with more Fins Nation as the week goes on.